Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're very excited that you can join us for another week.
We sure are.
And we have a wonderful guest for you today, Lightstar. Oh, I might need glasses. Lightstar is a pioneering, international acclaimed high-frequency attunement artist, celestial channel, and author, serving humanity on the jewel of Terra as an artistic visionary and inspiring creator of celestial awesomeness. Her groundbreaking visionary attunement artwork and frequency-encoded best-selling oracle decks are infused with sacred color rays and light codes that transmit pure divine inspiration, which help people awaken to realign with their soul, be inspired, and recall their destiny path. Serving as a catalyst and spiritual teacher to assist others in discovering their gifts and realigning to their natural state is a passion for Lightstar. She speaks over 20 light languages, which transmit and activate soul memories and healing codes. Lightstar's transformational music activation is a source of high-frequency sound healing designed to emit specific encoded frequencies that will cleanse, shift, calm energies, heal, upgrade, and inspire new levels of transformation for humanity. She is the author, artist, and creator of the popular, groundbreaking, and best-selling Magical Dimensions Oracle cards and Activation, now in the 2nd edition, and the Celestial Frequency Oracle cards and Healing Activators, which innovatively deliver a tangible, intuitive, strengthening tool that blends high-frequency visionary art and divine light codes for self-transformation, self-illumination, and self-healing. Lightstar's captivating attunement art has been publicized at galleries and venues worldwide, and she has been a featured guest on a variety of TV and radio broadcast networks and global online summits, including Alchemy of Ascension Summits, KCOR Radio, Sci-Spy TV, Starseed Radio Academy, Soology One Network, ATP Radio, Voice America, Starseed Radio Academy, and more. Her channeled transmission messages are also frequently published in the Sedona Journal of Emergence. So welcome, Lightstar. We're really happy that you can join us.
Thank you for the full and complete bio, right? Actually, that's not even the full bio. That's like, abbreviated version of everything in my past. But thank you very much for having me. I'm super glad to be here and share with you guys. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, we're really glad, and I'm really excited because I love the aspect of speaking the light languages and pulling in those activation codes. And I've seen your cards online, and they're so beautiful, and they're so they draw you right into them. So can you tell us maybe how you got started on this journey?
Well, if we go into it, there are so many different levels here because I have, or different channels that I have and bring, which is one is the artistic channel in terms of my artwork and everything. And then the other is my light language. And even now the other is the music that I'm bringing through. So there's a couple different streams, and then also just soul origins that I do for clients. So, I was not doing any of this. And I mean, not one iota of this when I was younger. This has only really been, I'd say, well, I shouldn't say that. And I should say that. There's a couple different things because I was always interested as a kid in, even when I started getting older, but I always had an interest in, something metaphysical or in health and wellness. Because I actually started out with I have a lot of certifications behind my name of certified in, I studied naturopathy. I actually did go through a degree process, but I'm not licensed to, treat people medically or anything. So I had a lot of wellness interest, and I got a lot of certifications there. So I started out on that path too. And I also was interested in psychology, and sociology was my major in college, is what I started out with. So I was planning on, maybe going into psychology or something in the healing arts as well. And I did do that for a while because I was a certified massage therapist. So I did go that route for a while. But I had the interest in metaphysics, but it doesn't mean I was doing it or any of that. So my real work, when I started to go out to, work in the world, it was really difficult to, I was degreed in sociology, but I ended up not going into psychology because, when you get out of college, you're kind of like left with, what do I do with myself? Right. Oh, what do I do here? And you don't really get a whole lot of guidance. At least I didn't, you're kind of just on your own trying to flounder around, figure it out. But I didn't want to go back into graduate school. I didn't have the money to put into that, and internships and non-paid and all that. So I just started going out into the business world, trying to get a job, right? Trying to get a job anywhere. So I worked a lot of receptionist and temporary and little jobs like that. Like I did a lot of that. And I didn't want to go back into psychology. So I ended up going into the business world. And of all things, I worked in so many different industries, from software, nutrition companies, but I was working in customer service or something like that, worked in so many different companies, so many different industries. And then I got to the place where I was finally ready to move out of California, and I moved to Colorado. And when I moved there, I got a job at of all things, a restoration company. This is like engineering. Well, actually, they turned into engineering later, but this was like for disaster recovery, restoration, from storms. And I started working in that, and actually liked the people, but I was not doing any of this kind of work whatsoever. But I did get a lot of experience, and I started getting into the industry there. And I even worked in forensic engineering at another company, and environmental protection. So I kind of worked on a lot of things in marketing, and I got some skills there for the graphic design, where I started doing that myself, like for that industry, just because I wanted to. I started like being interested in the digital graphics. And so I did do that for quite some time. And the only time I really, after I knew, when I was in Colorado for about 15 years, actually, and traversed that whole industry, and I decided one day, I knew that I was ready to move on, but I didn't know how, didn't know what, And through my time there of working full time, like 80 hours a week, and I also put in the time to get my naturopathic degree, to get all these other certifications where I studied at night and things of that nature. And then I was getting the impression that I needed to move into my true work, but I didn't know what that was. And a year prior to that, getting that knowing, I was prompted to leave that job. But at the time, how you don't want to let go because you're getting the income, you're getting the money that's coming in. You're like, I don't want to let this go. So for about a year, I was getting that I needed to move on, but I didn't. And then in about a year later, I had the rug pulled out from under me when it was around 2009 in the market crash. And I was the last to lose the job because everybody was losing their jobs at that time. And they did have to cut my job as well. And then that led me on the journey of where to go. And I just didn't know. And I'm here in Sedona still, but at the time ended up, okay, I'll go to Sedona, but I only meant to stay here for like 6 months. Right? Now it's been almost 14 years, later. So that is really where my true work started to really open the doorway, was when I got here. And actually went through what a lot of people call dark night of the soul, but I like to term it as the Kundalini soul of the spirit. Like that's your shift. It's really more that than it is dark night of the soul. But I did go through that here, and ended up really blossoming, where my artwork started to come out. I was guided to go work in Uptown in Sedona as a psychic reader. I had never done that before whatsoever. But it was the weirdest thing, haphazardly that ended up happening. And that's really propelled me doing that work. And then now what I do today in that way. But my artwork started to flourish, and all the different things started to flourish. and come out here. And this way I'm using my graphic designs, but more for this kind of work. So that's kind of how that all unfolded. And the light language really, I mean, I've been speaking this light language since I was 9, but I didn't know what it was. It wasn't until really years later, and when I got into Sedona, that all these languages started unfolding and it just started coming out everywhere, like multiple languages. And then I spent the course of several years, probably about 2 or 3 years, of really honing in on what they are and where they're coming from, and the different, energies that are coming in from them. So it was a process of bringing that forth. And then I was guided to be the bridge there to help bring some of that to the world. And so that's kind of the abbreviated, version of, I mean, there's so many things that goes into that, obviously, with everybody's story, but that's kind of how it happened. Because I have, several different things, different angles.
Yeah. Well, and Sedona's such a magical place. I got to go there. We were near it going on a trip, and I'm just like, I need to go there and feel that energy from there. And it's just amazing. It was like,
Sedona is a very unique spot on the planet. It's changing here. It's changed a lot since where I got, from everything that's happened in the world. It's changed quite a bit. And we had Sedona goes through a few years. It seems like every few years there's a complete turnover, where there's a lot of people that leave, and then there's new people that come in. And so and it changes the whole dynamics. But a lot of times people, come and then they do their work here, and then they have to go elsewhere to do it. But somehow I've been fortunate enough. Well, we've gone through a lot, my partner and I have gone through a lot here, with trying to stay here is not easy. It's very expensive. It's, that kind of thing. And so we've had to do a lot of concessions and things just to live here, really.
Yeah.
But I've grown, it's grown on me so much that I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. It's like, okay, if that's a whole nother thing, if you have to leave. But for the moment, we're still blessed enough to be here.
Nice. Nice. And your artwork is beautiful. I love what you do, because it is so, I can feel the light and just the energy with it that you bring in. Do you think that when you do your artwork, you're channel in these images?
Yeah, absolutely. My artwork is 100%. I can't even tell you how many weird instances I've had too with that, to show me that, yes, I am the vehicle. I am I'm putting my hand on the mouse, and I'm the one in the computer, and I'm the one doing it. But that part of me is the 3D part that just brings it through, physically here. But what's coming through is totally, I sit there, and my process is really interesting, because I've had so many instances where I'll create something and it'll be like, I thought I made a mistake. Well, okay, that didn't look right. No, that's actually the way it's supposed to be. It's like, I get this, no, or if I try to insert myself somewhat into the picture here, I've had instances where my computer completely crashed and I lost everything that I did for that time. And then it started back in the instance, okay, apparently that's not the direction I need to go in.
Sorry,
So I really have to pay, I'm just paying attention to those little things, nuances that we think are just quirks, or, things that don't mean anything, but they actually do. And I just get impressions and things that come. I get stuff in my dream time. A lot of times I'll try to bring forth the vision that came through in my dream time as best I can, with my own skill set. I feel like I'm improving, from when I started till now. There's been a huge transformation and involvement with my own abilities to create as well. We're all learning and growing. Yeah. And we don't start out, most of us, I guess there's savants on here that start out like Beethoven right from the start, because, they have that past life or something.
That's right.
But I do feel I've had past lives, and I have a particular past life experience that I remember And even when I was studying, I studied art history a lot in college too. So I guess I could have an art history minor if I were to have gone that direction. But I remember studying this one artist that really flashed out at me. This huge book that you have to study. It's like this thick, of all the different artists of all the different times, like Monet and, all these different ones. And the one that really stuck out, though, I really had a wow, like something drew me to that artist, and his work. And it was Jean van Eyck is his name. And it was a Flemish artist at that time. And the work that he did was really detailed. And it was almost like photographic at that time, but, obviously working in oil painting and all that. And I had a very strong, like, resonance with that. So I was either that or working with him or something, in that way that it drew, past life experience of how I was coming back to create it, but in a different way. Because obviously we have digital art now, and yet the same kind of things, because some of my imagery is very detailed, and so it's very similar that I'm bringing some of that through. So not like a savant like that, but I did feel like it came to me relatively quickly. And, but I do listen, and channel. And that's the same with the artwork, with the light language, with the music. It's really all a divine channel that opens up. And, I didn't even know I really was going to do music until that only happened in the last few years. So, I'd never done music in my entire life, never studied it, never played. I played an instrument a little bit, like, little bit, but not really anything like, significant. So you just never know what's going to come out. And I think that's a big lesson for all of us, is that if you don't try, you'll never know, right?
Absolutely.
You don't put yourself out there and you don't try different things, you'll never know if you could actually do it or not.
That's right.
Because I know a lot of people say, like, I can't do this. I can't. Don't say that, because, you really don't know. And even if you say you can't, and then you do it and you think it's awful or something like that, the first go around, it also doesn't mean that you stop doing it, especially if you enjoy doing it. You still do it. Like, it's not just because you have to be as good as, Monet and Degas and all these artists. You don't have to be that, but, it's a form of expression and it's a form of creativity. So I think, I learned about myself that I am a creator being. I wouldn't have called myself that really before. And I wouldn't have called myself an artist, to be perfectly honest with you guys. I didn't like when I first started doing this, I did not call myself an artist for a long time. It's like I didn't feel like I was an artist for a long time. For some reason, I guess, especially since I'm doing digital art, which is a little different. And then, the world doesn't really accept, like, digital art as true art, and depending on how you're doing it. But it's quite some time.
A lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot. And, it's harder. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't know. I did do a little bit of dabbled in some art, like with oil and watercolor. I didn't really like it that much, though, for me. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't like the smell of the paint. It was just really toxic, I thought. Even though you can get non-toxic paint, I get that. But I didn't care for the smell of it. But I know some people are really tactile and they like to have that. So if anything, I would do like watercolor, which is not, so like smelly,
Well, and I think with the digital art too, is that it's so pretty and it's so intricate, and like the objects and the things that you can bring into it are so deep, right? And I think that's why, like, even for myself, like with oracle cards and things like that, I get drawn to them because of the vision on there, because the more you look at it, and I feel that's digital art, the more you see and the more that comes out and the more that speaks to you in that.
Yeah, I think a lot of in the beginning, I really started to feel that my artwork would be really great for an oracle deck, like pretty early on. But I knew, to create an oracle deck, there's a lot of people that do oracle decks out there that are well known, but they're not the artist. And so I feel like And that's fine, but it's why they can spit out so many more, Oracle decks than I can for the most part. You're doing 10 million things and trying to make a living, and then you have to create 44, art pieces. That's yourself, and then write the whole book like you're doing it all yourself. It takes a lot longer. So I think the process is quite a bit more for people that are doing the actual artwork as well.
Yeah.
But I did feel that the art was really meant to be in an Oracle deck. And so when I finally finished, my first edition of the Magical Dimensions Oracle deck, because that took like 5 years just to create like the imagery. And then when I went with the publisher, that takes a whole nother year from when you send it in, from when the time that you actually have it launch. And there's so many different things. It's so much work, because I had to do quite a bit of work for that process. But it really was phenomenal. And I felt like when it came out, I felt like, because it's digital, I wasn't sure, a lot of people, but I've seen and heard, and so many, reviews and everything that people would say, although it's digital art, there's something about this that's just different, and I'm really drawn to this. And it's really the energy in there.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the art. Yes. And the beauty of it, but it's the energy that these codes, the energy of the magical dimensions is a lot more like, with the elementals and the fairy realms and the angelic realms, but not as much with the starseed realms as my second deck is. The celestial frequencies was very specific to help, because I was getting, make a starseed deck. I kept getting that. And yet I wanted it to be a little bit more than just starseed, but I do have 12, cards in there for that deck. That's very specific for star beings, from Sirius to Laren to, all the different beings. But then I have my codes like this one, which are the light language. I'm incorporating a lot of the light language codes and symbols and glyphs into the art. And that was a huge expansion, to put the codes into the art as well. And so that was a powerful evolvement. And yeah, that deck has been, a lot of people have been really blown away, because it's really, I'd say it's more of an intermediate type of experience with that deck, not that you couldn't use it right off the bat, because some people are just drawn to that one more, but it is very encoded. Definitely got a lot of codes in there. And, images, symbols, light language, that just imbues and is infused into the art. It's not just my energy that you're working with. Some people, it's like I say, it's infused with energy, but these are the beings that come through, are actual beings. And so they infuse their energy, as well as helping people with their higher connections to their higher self, to their spiritual guides, to their angels, to the ascended masters, to all of that. They're actually building that psychic muscle. Yeah. It's not that I want people to be, reliant upon cards, right? Because I don't feel that's true. I never even used cards for myself when I first started my intuition journey. Okay. I never even used cards. Okay. So it's not like you need them, but I find that visual people are very helpful. They like it and they're fun, and you do get more information that comes through that maybe you wouldn't have gotten, but it's not necessary to have it to have an intuition. Everybody has the intuition.
Absolutely. So when you create your stuff, do you channel in the pictures and then channel in the meaning to the cards, or I
have the description that comes in and that always comes after the fact. So I'm always getting and the name of the image for the most part comes after as well. The title of the actual image will come most of the time after I've completed it. And then the title comes, and then all the download where I write the information is, channeled information that comes through. What I like to do with a couple of them is I have like the first part is like the channeled information. And then the second part is like the if you're reading it as an oracle deck, like the advice or that kind of thing is a little bit more on the 3D realm, just it's still channeled, but it's really channeled more for how does that work here? Like, what does that mean for you? But I only write the book. So because I have to, in terms of for, the publisher, but also for the fact that some people are using it for the first time and have no idea. But I prefer people to just go with their own intuition with the cards, like not even look at the meaning, of it. But I know that some people really like it because it is channeled information, it's higher information. But I create it for that reason. But I love it when people can just go with their own, extract their own interpretation and their own translations really from the cards, just the way they look. And I know the first Magical Dimensions, it's in second edition now because I've added, there's like 11 new cards are in there. Like I've added, to that. We upgraded it. It's got the awesome, cool silver and gold for both of the decks on the back side. So it has that really foil effect on the back. But these cards are really powerful and you can use them. You can mix them together too. Like the actual sets can be mixed together. But in terms of like utilizing them and, extracting the meanings and getting all of that stuff, I just love it when people just go with their own, feeling and sense of them. The first edition and the second edition have a word and then 3 words underneath it to help you out. It's like, that's the beginner, right? The intermediate, I'd say the celestial frequencies has the word of the card or the title, but it'll, for the cards, but underneath it is the actual image name, the art name, because those carry certain vibrations and frequencies. Like this one actually is 963 hertz oneness healing code. And I wanted that in there. So that's why I named those. But you still kind of have to do your own extraction. And then eventually when I get to the third deck, you won't have that. It'll just be one word. That's my goal, is to have one word and then have no assistance. Although I will still write the content, but the card itself will just have one word and that's it.
Yeah,
interesting.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I feel very drawn to like the
Picture
image behind you.
Yeah, very much
And
so.
as you were talking, it was almost like it was like a portal opening up behind you, and then all these like codes coming through. So I'm not sure if that's what you were meant for, but it was interesting because it was like it was almost starting to spin and create this kind of portal to go into. So
yeah, I have a lot of my work, and actually I may be doing that even more so in the next deck that I do, or the next images. Portals have been coming to me a lot. And so there's a lot of my artwork that have portals in them. And I had a lot of downloads that I actually work in some of the portal doorways and gateways. So some of that stuff comes through just as a circular portal or some kind of portal, depending on what image it is or looking at it. I mean, all of my images are basically like portals into the dimensions. They're all opening the doorway. But some of them definitely have life. And I've heard this many times before where people say it's like, it seems like it was moving almost, energetically.
Yeah.
And it is that's the life in it. Okay. That's what I say about my artwork is really alive. It has life to it. It has, energy and life. And the codes especially are going to mean different things for different people. Of course, just depending on the situation of someone's viewing it and what they're going through, and they bypass the analytical mind so that, people can actually receive codes that they don't even necessarily know that they need. Right? That's something that happens. That's the same with light language as well. There's things that come through that you don't even know that could help you with. So it's a blend of them together. That's why I really liked putting the codes in, at least somewhat, to the new, to the art. And as I go forward, I'll probably still continue to do that. Although my newest series, which I actually just launched this week, I don't know if you guys saw it on my social media, but I've launched my seasons, the 4 seasons, which is artwork that is got codes, a stream of codes in it, but it's the 4. I'm starting with the divine feminine, and these are the women that embody, Mother Nature and Gaia, with the seasons, the 4 seasons of winter, spring, summer, and fall. And these are my best work. I've said that. I don't know. My partner says that for sure. He said, because this is what I said, as I evolve as well, my artwork evolves. And I feel like it's my best work, even though it's different than my previous stuff, because it's mostly like from here up. These are more like portraits, of these beings. So there's not as much going on. There's some going on in the background, but not as much going on. It's mostly focused on the energy of the being. And they came through even with their names. So the names are on the 4x6 description card. When people buy the art, the name of them will be on there. But I also told the people their names in the video I just did. And so my artwork is evolving and it's changing, and I'll be coming out with some divine masculine similar. They won't be the seasons, but it'll be a similar thing to encompass both divine feminine and divine masculine. I just couldn't wait to create the divine masculine. So I want to get the women out. So I know people are like, where's the men? It's like, well, it's coming.
They're coming.
But I got excited. I had ants on my pants and I just wanted to put them out when they were done. So yeah, it's been a journey really for me, and doing artwork and creating, and I feel like it's really for the world, even though it's for me. I do enjoy it and all that, but but sometimes it's quite challenging, to do that much art. And I have so much that I want to do and only so much time here to do it in.
Absolutely. Can you explain to the followers a little bit about light languages for people that don't know what they are?
Yeah. Light language is an energetic language that I feel. Now, there are languages, galactic languages, that are actual languages, but the light language mostly comes through as an energetic frequency. And it has a tendency to, it's very intuitive. And it also has a tendency to express energy through it. And so it's like it has its own energy that comes through. But there's a distinguishing difference. Like a lot of people out there maybe just speak one language, and that's maybe fine. They don't have to speak like 20 plus languages or whatever. I just do because it's part of one of my roles, is to do that. So in one dimension, I'm actually doing translations and things of that nature. And then yet in this dimension here, this incarnation, I'm doing it more for activating and for healing and for utilizing it in a different way. So you have to, with light language and people, I think most people though do know in this field what it is at this moment in time. If I would have said this like 15 years ago, when I started to get onto YouTube and start doing my activations, there weren't that many people on there doing it at that time. And I was like, didn't even know anybody at that time. I think that one person I knew, seriously, that was doing it. Now it's just all over the place on YouTube. It just exploded. And I feel like it's really about getting us used to getting out of our minds, right? Out of our mind and into our heart and energy and into feeling senses and subtleties. It's brought us, that's really what I feel is bringing it to what light language brings for everybody, is really more of, it can be used for healing. It can be used for any type of blessings. Sometimes I call those blessings, but blessings that people do. It can be used in many different ways. Like I said, a lot of healing blessings or blessings. It can be used for, it's just like a multitude. Some people speak the light language. Some people sign with their hands the light language. Some people draw in the light language. And so there's many different ways. People dance in the lyric of the light language. It's all a form of light language expression. So there's it's a wide gamut. of what light language really is and how it can be expressed. But that's generally in a nutshell what it is. It's for and its purpose maybe is different for other people. That's just what I feel the purpose is to get us used to this energy field and not this. I always feel like someday we're not going to have the name of Barb and, Lightstar. Well, mine's a little different, but my original name, but going by your name, Kim and Barb and Julie and Sam and all these different names, that you will be recognized by the codes around you, the sound maybe around you, the color maybe around you, that formulates perhaps into a code that is you. It's like your essence rather than your name. Because how many people get named their names and they're like, that's not even what I really resonate with, right? I'm not saying you have to do that. Not everybody has to change their name, but I wasn't really in resonance with my legal name when what my parents named me. Not that I didn't dislike it. I just, as I grew and then got into this, I just felt my name and I was downloaded some information that came to my name. So that's where I feel light language is very helpful and useful and will be into our future line. I feel like this is just the start of it. This is just the opening of the gateway. And part of my role was to be the bridge for people who really having no clue. And that's why another reason why I have so many languages that download is to bring people from this point to this point so that there's a bridge there for them to traverse. And then, now I feel like we're a little bit further along in that, which is good. We're not done, but I think that there's
a long shot.
There's some of that. And that's why I've refrained in the past from doing a lot of interpretations and translations with my light language. At the initial start of it is that I wanted people just to feel the energy more and sense it more than try to dilute this 5D, above information that's coming through. And then you dilute it down and then it gets diluted. By the time it's here, it's not really to be interpreted. That's the new word. Interpreted by French, German, English, whatever. It's not generally the same, like a word for word translation.
That's true.
Most of them. Some of them are, and some of them actually have been translated in some ways. The Orion has a phrase that they give me. That's only a phrase they gave me that I can interpret it, word for word. But many of them are different. Like fairy language comes in a whisper for me. That's just how it comes. It's not, and there are some that are just transmissions. They're not even languages, but they are transmissions. And the Arcturians, for example, do a lot of that, and there's a lot of transmitting and energy and codes and healing and all different things that come through.
Right.
So
how did you know when you were receiving it, that you were actually receiving it? So I think the viewers would like to know that. And how did you know what it was trying to say to you?
Yeah, well, that took a while too. Is when this information starts downloading into the stream. Of course, when I was 9, I was speaking something. I didn't even know what the heck that was, but now I do. And you don't always have to, I say, get an interpretation right directly that comes in. But what I feel is very important is to put around your energy field, just like you would before you're going to do meditation or channeling or any kind of thing, you're going to put some shielding around you, right? It's very important to do that. And you set it up to where you put the shield around you and only allow in the highest frequencies, what I say, of love, light, God, and truth. That's all that you're allowing in, then that's all that's going to come in. If you're really, putting that up there. Now, if you don't, and you start speaking out stuff, there can be jumper energies that like to come in when you don't know what you're doing. It's just more important for you to put that shielding around you. And then you can experiment and play with the information coming through or light language and not necessarily knowing every word. But what would happen for me is that the light language would come in, and maybe I didn't get a word for word, but I got a general overview, like of what that was for. So if something came in, And I'd be like, okay, that feels like it's for this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
Maybe it was healing. Maybe it was an upgrade. Maybe it was just information. Maybe there was something coming on that I was supposed to be preparing for. It's very different, but I would get these overviews. And then I also spent a lot of time with my recorder, and I would record these languages. And then because I didn't want to forget, because it's gone. Like sometimes it just comes in, you're like, oh, so I would be grabbing this, like, oh, I got to record this. And I'd record it. And then I would come back to it. And then another one would come in. If it was different, I'd record it. And so I started to see there was distinctions and differences between the different languages that were coming, the different transmissions. And I spent quite a bit of time really just diving in. Where is that from? What energy is that coming from? Is that from, the cosmic starseed galactic, or is that angelic, or is that elemental realms? What realms is it really coming in from, and what is it for, and what's coming through overall? So that's kind of how I do, is just the overall meaning, overall journey of what's transmitting.
So that's a lot of information you're receiving.
Yeah, it can be quite
lot of
a little, I remember when they first started coming in, I was getting downloads in the shower when I was trying to sleep, and it was just very disruptive. So I kind of had to, when I got like maybe 20 of these downloads, I'm like, I'm done for now. Okay, just stop the stream. And I don't want to have any more coming in until I can go through these. And, and that's how I did a lot of it. And oddly enough, when I would go on, trips, if I was driving, like say I was driving 10 hours or something. I don't do that very often here now, but when I did, I was like, say I'm driving from California to Colorado. When you're driving, what can happen there, right? A lot of my languages would come through when I was driving, because there's just all this empty time to just, tune in. And so a couple of them, new ones that came in, was actually on a drive, years ago, and it would come through my drive time. So it depends on where they're going to come through. But I find that when you're most relaxed, when you're most in your zone or space, it's generally when it's going to come in, and let that, come through.
Yeah. And I think that's important what you said too, because it's like you are putting up those boundaries of like, yeah, you can channel this message into me and you can download stuff, but I have a little bit of boundaries. Like I want my sleep. I want to have my shower by myself, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I know for myself, I've been getting them in the day, and then it's like, okay, I can't hear you because I'm too busy. So you're going to need to come to me, in a quieter time when I'm asleep, or, in my dreams, or what have you, right? Because right now I can't get in what you're getting. Sometimes I'll acknowledge it and just say, okay, I know you're putting something in there. I'll get that later.
Get it when I can get it. Yeah. And you have to realize that there are some beings that, especially our spiritual guides, or maybe our angels, some of the angels have never been in incarnated state. Some of them, we are ourselves, as some of us on the planet, incarnated angels, right? Some of them angels are able to physically incarnate into a body, but there are some angels that cannot, and never have, and never will. Now, they don't really have the same understanding of what's going on down here, like in terms of our 3D realm and the things that we have to deal with here. And so they have a little bit less of that understanding. But some of the spiritual guides that we have had past lives here, and they've been in incarnated form, so they kind of get it. So I find that those spiritual guides, like if you had, I don't know, this, just an example, you had a person that was like your best friend or something in one lifetime, and they wanted to go and be your guide or something, and you agreed to that, and then they come back, like you can have a little bit more of, okay, I need to put this off right now. Okay, I can't do that right now because I got this going on. They're a little bit more softer in that way, because they get it. They know, okay,
Yes,
they're maybe not in that form right now, but they've been there before.
Yeah.
So it does depend on who even the ascended masters have gone through, physical incarnated state. Most of them have. So, they've made their way up to enlightenment, and they do understand the human situations here. And I mean, sometimes I do that. Well, say that, like you don't know, so you're just not aware of this, but I've got to do this. Or I can't tune into your energy right now because I'm really stressed out about this situation over here. So until I can really effectively get into a space, and to be honest, to expect the ascended masters and the angelics and the higher dimensions to come down to your level, which they will, but that's not very easy for them, right? Their energy is way higher. And then to have to come down into this density is very difficult for them.
Yep.
And so they sort of expect you to rise up here, and they'll come a little bit. So you got to meet them halfway.
Yep,
If you're like way down here in your anger and everything, they're just like, okay, we're just,
I
you're
know when
not even going to be able to really tune in. And if you do tune in, who are you going to tune into at that level? It's going to be the lower dimensions. It's going to be the demonic frequencies. It's going to be all that frequency and bandwidth, which you do not want to listen to any of that.
Right.
So those are the times that you just say, I'm just going to let myself have this right now. Okay. Let yourself have it. I always tell people this. If you're feeling angry or you're feeling depressed or you're feeling sad or grief or any of those feelings, do not put them off. Do not brush them off. Go through the process of feeling it, but don't let yourself stay there for longer. I give myself a day, maybe 2 at the most, max.
Yeah.
And if I am not pulled out by that time, I force myself to pull myself out of that place, because I know the longer you stay in it, the harder it is to get out of it.
I think
And
that's
so everybody goes through that.
I think that's good about us too, is we catch each other, like I'll say, chief person doing this, and Kim will say, brush it off, mom, or, or she'll say something to me. And so we're really good at identifying that and saying, don't stay there too long. Right.
Yeah.
When the guides came down, they were coming down when I was driving a lot. And, I was driving for an hour and couldn't remember where I'd been going to the light. And I said,
oh my God.
Whoa, this is not good. You have to let me see the world too, right?
I have to pay attention to what's going on in front of me.
Yeah, you give me the information, but I need to watch the road, and that type of thing. But it wasn't until after I had done the trip, I realized I had done it. And I went, whoa, that is.
There's a balance between a happy balance between all of the energies of the higher frequencies and higher guidance, and then being grounded and very practical here.
Exactly.
On the, okay.
They had me flying.
Practicality. We are here to bring all of that higher vibrations here into whatever consciousness you're aware of. Like the consciousness of our awareness is usually here, in this incarnation. Now, doesn't mean that we don't have other aspects of ourselves. We may just not be aware of them, and we don't have to be aware of all of them. I do some of that in my starseed alignment sessions where, I bring in the soul origins. So, what the other aspects are, but but I'm always like about practicality too, and it's funny because, I'm not an astrologist by any means. So sometimes I look at astrology, but, I'm an Aquarius as an my sign, but that's Western world, right? Western. And there's a lot of truth in that. But then if you looked at the Eastern, more like the sidereal, I think it's called, if I said that right, the sidereal astrology, which is the Eastern astrology, my sign is actually Capricorn.
Wow.
And there's also truth to that. I find truth in both of them, because I'm very practical and I do see myself, and that's the Capricorn in the practicality. But then I'm the Aquarius, where I see all this other stuff coming out with my art and all the futuristic stuff and the creative stuff and all that. So I think that we have to look at the world to see it, to be here, and to bring the higher frequencies here as much as you can. And don't beat yourself up one day if you're like, oh man, I'm just not in it today. Okay. And I'm not on today. Right. When I'm feeling that, that's not a day I'm going to be doing any filming, is it? It's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put that energy out there for everybody. So, it's like if people expect me to do a lot more videos probably than I do, but it's like, no, I'm not those people. I'm not those people that's just going to do a video every single day, even if I'm feeling crappy or, if it's not working or I'm just down in that, like, I don't feel like doing this, it's like, well, it's something
you have to honor that. You have
pay
to honor
attention to, right? All of us, like maybe you don't feel like doing it that day. Well, then don't take a day off of that. Don't feel all the pressure from the world, that you have to do certain things.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. So
yeah.
can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
Yes, many different places, but my website, which is lightstarcreations.com. And that's where you'll find all of my art. You can go to my shop page, all the stuff on there, which all my different things that I have to offer are on there as far as the shop page. And then if you're wanting to my YouTube channel, I have a lot of social media. You can find me on YouTube, either by, you type in Lightstar and I'll come up there, but you can also do the @ with Lightstar Creations. For all my social media handles are usually @ and then Lightstar Creations.
Okay.
If not just Lightstar, but most of them are Lightstar Creations for like Instagram and Facebook page. And even the YouTube channel is that as well. And and on my contact page on my actual website, it has everywhere that I'm at, as far as like not just social media, but all the different channels, because I'm also on Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon and that kind of stuff, as well as YouTube.
Well,
Okay,
it's all good information from us. When the more you tell us what you're doing too, it sort of shows, oh, I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, there's a lot. I tried to those are back channels, mainly as backup channels, but some people I guess are watching, on BitChute and Rumble and Odyssey and Brighteon. Those are the ones I kind of put up there.
Right.
Main one is YouTube, but the other ones are, I guess, just in case if YouTube ever goes away, right? Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, we'll share all of that in the show notes as well. But
Absolutely.
it's been so awesome having you on. You just a wealth of information.
Boy, you ever. It's awesome.
Thank you guys.
Love to have you back sometime, and we can get into talking about some other things with channeling and light languages more. And
Yeah, there's like a whole host. There's so much, right? There's so many things to
go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, there's so much to go down the rabbit hole. So, but yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on and sharing with your audience and everybody out there who's listening. Just appreciate your time and your energy and being here on the planet. Thank you for your service. Really, it's just about, how much courage it took you guys to actually make the choice to be here. So I appreciate everybody's time, energy, and what they're putting towards this planet. And I really appreciate you guys and what you're doing and putting out different people to the world as well. So
yes.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we love it, and we're so grateful that you could be one of those people
Very
and,
much so.
and share your knowledge with everyone. And we appreciate it, and we hope everybody else did. I'm sure they did, and we hope everybody has.
We did,
and we hope everybody has a magical week.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.